Hello, welcome to the Villages, Florida. My name is David. I'm a realtor with Florida Realty Investments, and every week I take a look at the real estate market in Central Florida, specifically the Villages. For those who don't know, the Villages is a 55 plus community. We've got championship golf courses, executive golf courses, live music every night of the week in four different town squares, recreation, shopping, dining, pickleball, too many social clubs to count. It really is resort style living, and that's why a lot of retirees from around the country are moving here. If you're a buyer or a seller who wants to know what long term trends are on prices, price per square foot, how many homes are selling, how many homes are for sale, if you want to get a perspective on the differences between the different regions of the villages, this is the show for you. If you want to be informed, if you want to be able to form your own opinion as to long term trends and what's happening currently in the villages, I think you'll find this show valuable. We produce it every Monday. Make sure you check the date to ensure you're getting the most recent information. A couple of things to note. The Villages has two distinct real estate marketplaces, the VLS and the MLS. The VLS is the Village's own internal marketplace. It's the only place where you will find new properties listed, but pre-owned homes are for sale on both the VLS and the MLS. And if you're a buyer, you really need a broker who can show you both. Most VLS or MLS agents will only show you properties on their market. What this means is that if you're a buyer, you need someone who can show you homes on both markets. And if you're a seller, you're going to need to decide on which marketplace to list your home. All the information on this show is drawn from the MLS. If you care to reach me, I'm at DavidisinFlorida.com or DavidisinFlorida@gmail.com. And if you're a buyer trying to find a deal, please give me a call, DavidisinFlorida.com. I'll be happy to help you. Similarly, if you're a seller, even if you're just looking for a price opinion, I'll be happy to consult with you. DavidisinFlorida.com, DavidisinFlorida@gmail.com. So, with that out of the way, let's take a look at what's happening in the Villages real estate market this week. We start every week by taking a look at the yield on the US 10-year note. The mortgage rate most closely tracks this yield. And as you can see, unfortunately, on this chart, since the Fed lowered rates in mid September, interest rates have basically gone straight up, close to a percentage point higher, in fact. And the resulting increase in the mortgage rate looks like this. I'm not going to belabor the point, but you can see that the 30-year fixed mortgage rate basically mirrors the yield on the 10-year note. We've risen by almost a full percentage point since the Fed cut rates in September. We'll have to see if the Villages is going to be affected by this interest rate environment. We're going to look at the villages as a whole, and we're going to divide the villages into four geographic regions. But first, let me start by orienting you as to where the villages is. For those who don't know, the villages is in central Florida. We're about an hour north of Orlando, about an hour south of Ocala, and about an hour from coasts east and west. And as I mentioned earlier, the villages has pretty much every amenity you could want from golf, pickleball, swimming pools, etc. So as we zoom in on this map, these dots are showing you all active listings on the MLS. The size of the dot represents the size of the home, and the color of the dot represents its price per square foot. I'm going to zoom in on the Lake Sumter area, and then I'm going to switch back and forth between price per square foot and price. The size of the circle denotes the size of the home, larger the circle, larger the home. The color of the circle in the price per square foot, the darker the circle, the lower per square foot. And in price, the lower the price, the darker the circle. And obviously the opposite, the lighter the circle, the more expensive per square foot or the more expensive price. We're going to look at long-term trends, and we're also going to look at the differences between the regions of the villages. But let's start by taking a look at the long-term trends. This is the number of listings on the MLS. This week, 529 listings, which is as high as we've ever seen. Last week, 514. A year ago, 340. Currently in the villages, the least expensive home is $159,000, same price as when it was originally listed, and it's been on the market 73 days. The most expensive home is just under 2.9, was originally 2.950, and it has been on the market for 126 days. This graph is only showing you back the last year. This is an interesting graph, even though it's not showing much movement. We're looking at the median time on the market for all listings. This week, 61 days. Last week, also 61 days. A year ago, 43 days. Interestingly, the median time on the market has been 61 days for the last 4 weeks consecutively. Here's a very popular chart. We're keeping track of the median list price per square foot. This week, 258.24, up very slightly from last week's 258.01, but down from last year's 261.31. The lowest median list price per square foot that we've seen was 257.90, and that was on the 7th of October. Since we're looking at listings, let me show you how I've divided the villages into 4 geographic regions. We're looking at all active listings on the MLS. The size of the dot is the size of the home, and the color of the dot is the price per square foot. The brighter the dot, the more expensive per square foot, and the larger the circle, the larger the home. This is the entirety of the villages. Here I'm going to show you how I've divided the villages into 4 geographic regions. The first is the area that I'm calling the north. This includes the historic section across Highway 441 from Spanish Springs and extends up to Highway 42. The boundaries are 42 on the north and 466 on the south. There are currently 242 active listings on the MLS this week in this area. Last week, only 238. This is the area that I'm calling the Mid-North, one of the most popular areas in the villages. Currently, this week, there are 155 active listings. Last week, there were 150. Once again, you're looking at maps that are showing you size and price per square foot. This area's northern boundary is 466 and the southern boundary is 466A. These are all active listings in the Mid-South. I'm defining the Mid-South as everything south of 466A and north of Highway 44. This week, 71 active listings. Last week, 68. These maps are all showing you size and price per square foot. And this is the South. This week there are 61 active listings. Last week there were only 58. This is everything south of Highway 44, and this is really the area that the village is growing towards. So now that you know where the areas are located, let's dive into the differences between them. These are all active MLS listings in the north, which is everything south of 42 and north of 466. 242 active listings, smallest 672 square feet, largest 29.95. Prices range from 159,000 to just under 880, and on a per foot basis in the north, properties range from 135 to $395 a square foot. This is the mid-north, the area south of 466 and north of 466A. 155 active listings this week. Sizes from 1,090 to 3,090 square feet. Prices from 270,000 to $1,800,000. And on a per foot basis, prices in the mid-north range from $206 to $675 a foot. This is the Mid-South. This week, 71 active listings. The sizes range from 1,152 to 3,738 square feet, and prices range from 275 to just under 2.9 per foot basis, 216 to 776. Median price per square foot in the Mid-South is 283 a foot. And finally, this is the South. This is everything south of 44. This is the area that the village is really growing into. 61 active listings this week, sizes ranging from 961 square feet to 3,260, prices from 250,000 to $1,259,000, and the median price per square foot in the South this week, 282 a foot. So now that we've broken the villages down by area and you have some sense as to where the activity and prices are for each of those, let's take a look at where the properties are by price. The first area we're going to look at is those properties that are for sale under 200,000. This week there are 7 active properties. In the last 60 days, 2 have gone pending and 3 have sold in this price range. The next band is the $200,000 to $400,000 range, the most active price segment here. 271 active listings this week. In the last 60 days, 83 properties in this price range went pending and 145 sold. This is the map of the properties for sale between 400,000 and 600,000. There are 177 of them this week. In the last 60 days, 53 have gone pending and 62 have sold. And 6 to 800,000 this week, 38 active listings, 21 have gone pending and 13 have sold in the last 60 days. The 800 to a million segment, 17 active listings this week. In the last 60 days, there have been 6 homes in this price range going pending and 7 have closed. And a million to a million and a half, 15 homes for sale this week. 1 has gone pending and 3 have sold in this price range over the last 60 days. And in the $1.5 million price range, there are 4 active listings. In this price range, only 1 home has gone pending in the last 60 days and no homes have closed. And this is just basically to summarize what I've told you earlier. We're looking at MLS listings per foot, and we're looking at how the price per square foot varies as you change the price of the home. For example, for homes between $200,000 and $400,000, the least expensive on a per square foot basis is $150. The most is $340, and the median price per square foot in that price bucket is $250. And in that price bucket, there are 271 homes for sale this week. In the most expensive price bucket, the $1.5 million plus, the least expensive on a per square foot basis is $462, the most expensive $776, and there are 4 homes for sale in this price range. I added 2 bonus maps this week to give you some idea as to what we can do with this mapping tool. Here we're looking at all homes in the villages that went pending over the last 60 days. The same rules apply. The darker the circle, the lower per square foot, and the larger the circle, the larger the home. Let's continue looking at pending home sales. The maps that I showed you earlier showed you pending home sales and homes that closed over the last 60 days. Here we're looking at activity over the last week. The graph is showing you a 4-week moving average, but the numbers you see are actual data points. Over the last 7 days, there were 45 new listings and only 31 pending sales. The previous week, 41 new listings, but 44 pending sales. And a year ago, 46 new listings and 20 sales. Last year, there were more than twice as many new listings as homes going pending. It's not quite as bad this year. And this chart is just a summary of the previous chart. We're looking at the difference between new listings and homes going pending. Over the last 7 days, there were 14 more new listings than going pending. Previous week, 3 more went pending than were listed. A year ago, there were 26 more homes being listed than going pending. Just another quick look at the homes that went pending last week. The median time on the market for those homes going pending was 55 days. Previous week was only 50. A year ago, only 47. Once again, this graph is a 4-week average. The numbers are actual data points. Prices on a per square foot basis for the homes going pending last week were up very slightly from the previous week. 262.75 up from 261.77, but barely higher than the 259.24 of the same week a year ago. And this is a sign of some strength in the market. We're looking at what price reduction from the original list price sellers were offering for the homes that went pending over the last 7 days. It was a median reduction of only 3.96%, down quite markedly from the week before, and a big improvement from the 8.3% that sellers were offering buyers the same week a year ago for the homes going pending. Now let's look at sales. These are the homes that closed over the last 7 days. They numbered 35. Previous week we had 45 sales. The same week a year ago there were only 26. The lowest priced home closing last week was $208,000, which was originally $265,000. That had been on the market 111 days, and the discount was 22% from the original asking price. This was also the highest discount of all the homes closing last week. The highest priced home that closed last week was $799,000, which was originally listed at $850. After 251 days on the market, that seller accepted a 6% discount. I'm adding this graph because even though it seems to be heading lower, if you look at the actual numbers, you'll see that it is dramatically higher. The median time on the market for the homes that closed last week was 59 days. This is prior to them going pending. The previous week was 37 days, and the same week a year ago was only 29 days. And this week saw quite a drop in the median price per square foot for the homes that closed last week. It was only 232 a foot. The previous week was 244, and the same week a year ago was 243. As you look at this graph, you can see how close 232 is to the lowest numbers we've seen. And for those who like pictures, this is a graphical depiction of every property that's sold over the last 60 days. Once again, size of the circle, size of the home, and the darker the circle, the less expensive per square foot. There were 233 homes that closed over the last 60 days. The number of homes that went pending over the last 60 days, which I didn't mention, was 167. To give you some perspective on sales activity, we've mapped it seasonally. This graph is showing you every week of the year. The red line is 2024, the green line 2023, and the blue line 2022. Last week, we saw 35 sales. In 2023, the same week, we only saw 26. And in 2022, we only saw 12. And we've started tracking this data point, which is weeks of inventory. We're just dividing inventory by the number of sales. Last week's activity represented 15.1 weeks of inventory. The previous week was only 11.4, and last year was 13.1 weeks of inventory. So let's look at all listings once again, and now we're looking at what percentage of those listings have reduced their asking price from the original asking price. As of today, 53.5% of listings have reduced their asking price. The previous week, it was only 52.72% that had, and last year it was less than half who had. And here we look at what the actual percentage decrease was. The previous graph showed you what percentage of listings had reduced their asking price. Here we're looking at what the median reduction is. Currently, it's a 3.56% reduction from the original asking price. Previous week, it was only 3.47, and the same week a year ago, it was 3.87. If you're a buyer and you're trying to find a good deal in the villages, or you'd like to explore your possibilities here, please reach out to me at DavidisinFlorida@gmail.com or at DavidisinFlorida.com. Similarly, if you're a seller and you'd like to get a price opinion or hire me to achieve the maximum return from your property, please reach out to me, DavidisinFlorida.com, DavidisinFlorida@gmail.com. I'll be happy to help you answer any questions about life in Florida or life in the villages itself. Hope to hear from you. Take care.